Up you get, Lawrence. Don't worry, that is caught on camera. Right, good morning everyone and welcome to Old Farm Park, aka Toddington Moto Park, for the first round of the Luton District Motocross Championship 2025, also the second round of the South Midland Centre Championship. Track's looking in good condition, could be a bit sloppy to start off with, starting off like porridge, then kneading to a fine dough, perfect for racing this afternoon providing the weather holds out. Riders just about to go out for their practice sessions. You've got juniors, experts, of which you'll have Group A in with the experts, Group B, juniors, over 40s, over 50s and over 60s with juniors, Group C with those. That all breaks down to qualifying. Your two sets of juniors separated by numbers will go out for 10 minutes with a time practice. The fastest will go into Group A, which will end up with the experts. So expect a few ringers in the Group B, the juniors overall. Wiltshire coming around on a practice lap. First time in over 3 decades he's actually been on a guac. So today's racing commences. We're starting off with the over 40s. Got a different perspective this time round because the improvements that the club have done to the circuit mean that you can get a good view all the way around. They put chestnut fencing in, invested the money that they've made. They're a not-for-profit company or organisation. They do everything, put it back into the sport, and it's left us with a perfect viewing platform all the way around the circuit now. A beautiful sweeping circuit. The rain has held off thus far, so we've got it in pretty much prime conditions. Leaders coming round. Kind of expected Lawrence Wiltshire to be up at the front. Currently in second. That jump really is like leaping into no man's land. As then they swoop down the hill and go into a left-hander couple of back loops and then over the tabletop. It's a real mixture out there. At the front obviously you've got 4 strokes. Everybody seems to favour them nowadays. I am a traditional 2-stroke rider, or was. 4 strokes were pretty much, I guess, in their infancy, apart from the Haynes 4-stroke championship. There are good little battles going on all the way through the field as we speak. And I don't concentrate so much on just the guys at the front. Everyone out there is giving their best. They're out there racing, and it's giving something back to these guys. Whether they'll catch up later, see themselves, see where they might have gone wrong, see where they could have improved, or just see themselves having a bit of fun. That's all that matters. The over 50s making their way around on their first lap. Coming around with a little bit of work to do. As I said before, just look at the sweeping curves of this circuit. It really is spectacular, and you can see why the ACU choose to run the vets here every June. To be the 3rd time of asking this time round. Leader appears to be in a race all by himself. But then after that, it's bunches, and it's all about the start, because there's pretty much only half a second between these guys as they go around. But then as they try and outbrake each other, the gaps start to appear. And it is certainly nice to hear the 2-stroke engines out there. Certainly quite a big field of riders out there. The club has done exceptionally well to get bums behind the start gate. Of course, motocross seems to be in a transitional period at the moment. It's a lot of guys out practicing, but not a lot of guys out racing. That could be due to cost, anything really, but nowadays you go out and purchase a bike. A 4-stroke's going to set you back the best part of 10,000, and that's just the start. their Group C riders along with your over 60s. People ask, what does your granddad do? He kicks ass on a dirt bike. Seriously, one of the coolest riders in the paddock.
Sorry.
Simon West there, number 15 on his Yamaha, cantilever suspension. Unfortunately, not like these other guys, he's got to kickstart that beast into action. Value of that thing is probably comparable with some of your modern bikes. They do hold their value. Very reminiscent for the old days for myself. We didn't have these finely manicured tracks, we were just racing on grass and it would churn up, and that's what you was left with at the end of the day. Similar to what Farley Castle looks like at the end of a day's meeting. But times have changed, as I've said. Everything's done with overkill on the safety, I suppose. But this track could actually do with being a tad wider. There's not a great deal of overtaking places if you are on a par with the rider next to you, unless you can outbrake him, of course. Gotta catch sight on this old classic. I truly love that bike. Coming over 40s. Great gate from Lawrence this time round. This side of the track certainly gives off spectacular views. Can't park there, mate. Up you get, Lawrence. Don't worry, that is caught on camera. charge of the Light Brigade again as the fastest riders here today, the experts and your Group A riders come round. Another great start for Burn. Pretty much leaping into the unknown. Clark out in front. 272. Neville Bradshaw. There's Paul Byrne. These are currently junior riders out there. One thing I have noticed this time round, which changed from last year, there was a rule change which stops the old hairdryers being out there, the old Starks, the electric bikes. It's at club level. I think every marshal would have to have a fire extinguisher, and it just, I think it's cost as much as anything else. Great idea, but it's not for everyone. I have seen a Triumph out there today as well, and I have noticed obviously the GPs at Ducati have come into it, so whether one day we'll see a Ducati in club racing, I doubt it because of the price. I, for one, wish they would go back to two-strokes. In my view, you can't beat them, but that was all decided back in the early 2000s by the big Japanese corporates. They weren't selling the 500cc's, so they dropped the 250s. Then someone decided that they could bring out a 4-stroke, and the balance has changed ever since. Said back in my day, a 4-stroke would be, you did have KTMs and Huskies, but it'd be an Armstrong or a CCM. Okay. One thing of note, a lot of these guys are getting their arse kicked by a girl at the moment. Here she comes in 7th spot, not sure of the name. If anyone remembers, this time last year we had a natural spring open right in front of us. Girls in the sport, pretty much reminiscing of back in the day when I was racing. We had Hayley Rillings, and if I wasn't on it, she could kick my arse on a 100cc Kawasaki. I think she went into stunt racing before going into horse racing. So we've now got a restart incident. I don't know whether I caught it in the last clip, as the guys have come round on the first lap. Two guys, one on a CR, one on a gas. I don't know whether they've clipped each other. One of them's wheels, front wheels, certainly buckled. They both clattered about. One's ended up in a real serious state. He was in agony, he was conscious, but we don't know. We just hope he's okay. But the races are now continuing while the medics deal with the poor unfortunate rider. They said they come round the corner here and they were at full pelt. Anyway guys, we're now severely tipping down with rain. The experts out for their last race of the day. I'm about to call it quits because I've got to get home and pick the wife up from work. These things have to happen, unfortunately. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll catch you next time. I believe there is another meeting between now and the vets. Whether I can make that or not, I'm not sure as yet, but I'll try. Otherwise, vets are a certainty. Catch you next time guys. Be safe.